What is up, dog? I am Hydrabread, and today I am here to share a different perspective than usual. Several weeks ago I made a video arguing the case of Jojo stands being beneath the speed of light, and if you want to see the full argument I made, the link is in the video description. It's pretty eye-opening, pun intended. Anyhow, I recently had a long conversation with Godot, a different Jojo power scaler, and after a long back and forth that lasted several hours, we came to a mutual conclusion that the story leaves room for interpretation. While the arguments made in my last video are not wrong or invalid, I should not have said, hey, this is definitive fact, because you need to understand there are numerous inconsistencies within Jojo, and as fans we interpret these inconsistencies to mean different things, and that's why these arguments come up to begin with. As a rule, when looking at fiction, your interpretation of the world changes underlying assumptions that will lead to your conclusion. So in this video, I'm going to present to you a taste of both arguments and part of where the major dissent comes from. On one hand, you have those who believe Chariot and other stands move at the speed of light, or even beyond the speed of light, and on the other hand, you have those who believe they are within the realm of gunshots. Now, which one should you side with? Believe what you want. I'm not here to bestow the holy word of God onto you. I'm not the author of Jojo. Either a lightspeed or a non-lightspeed read can be sourced from the Hangman fight. More specifically, your interpretation of lightspeed might as well come from how fast you scale the gun of Whole Horse. Yes, it would appear the entire lightspeed argument rests on a guy wearing a cowboy outfit. Kind of. Of course, there are dozens and dozens of talking points, but this is kind of the most interesting point where you can clearly see these two debates cross. When Whole Horse fights Polnareff recognizes he won't just be able to hit the bullet because it's way too fast. So he uses the armor breaking technique, and obviously the purpose of Chariot having its armor removed is to go faster, right? Nobody's gonna argue with that. That's the one thing it does. And this bullet, you can clearly see in the anime and manga, it just came right within the cutting range and Polnareff could not hit it, or even launch a follow-up attack afterwards, considering he immediately notices this bullet swerve, and that establishes something that you kinda have to agree upon, being Silver Chariot is slower than Armorless Chariot, and Armorless Chariot is slower than Emperor. Very basic, fundamental power scaling here. You also have to agree that Hanged Man travels across light, and Polnareff suggests that means he's the speed of light, so with this given information, you have to fill this gap in. Silver Chariot is less than Armorless Silver Chariot. Armorless Silver Chariot is less than Emperor in speed. But where is Emperor's relation to Hanged Man, and thus the speed of light? Now there are effectively two ways of scaling this. Either you say, A, Emperor is way beyond light speed, or B, Emperor is way beneath light speed. Okay, now here's how we differ in opinions. First, let's check out light speed. When Chariot cuts Hanged Man, it appears though he's summoned first and takes a swing stopping the motion of Hanged Man, and this seems to imply that base Chariot is slower than Hanged Man, and thus Hanged Man is way slower than a magical stand bullet. Furthermore, it almost seems like Polnareff is seeing the stream of light move at times, so if Polnareff can keep up with the light beam, it becomes a possibility. And in this interpretation, the reason Polnareff doesn't go for Hanged Man earlier has to do with Polnareff being careful around a crowd of people. We can probably agree he's a chivalrous gentleman, so it's not out of character that he would hold back around them. What Chariot demonstrates is more important than what Polnareff says by this argument, because if a guy says he can't do something and he does it anyway, that would invalidate his statement. There's also a major piece of outside evidence in guidebook statements, as they state in two separate instances that Polnareff's stand would have to be fast to cut something moving at light speed. And although this text is outside of the main story and does not bother telling us how fast it would have to be, it's still a nice reference point for the light speed argument. And overall, I find it hard to argue that guidebooks are invalid, and there's certainly some merit to the literal appearance of the way Chariot attacks Hanged Man. You know, if you just look at this scene, it does look like he's just coming there before the light shows up and slashing him in advance. But then on the other hand, we have the slower than light interpretation. This one holds that Chariot reacting to Hanged Man is a fundamental misinterpretation of that scene, as Polnareff talked about not being able to keep up with something that fast with his eyes or his stand and having to predict the movement of Hanged Man to go at him. In fact, that was the entire mechanic or point of that fight. So what does cutting speed have to do with other speeds? A lot. In the manga, it's more clearly illustrated that as human eyes cannot see things moving that fast, Polnareff is just seeing a trail left behind by Hanged Man and not really following it with his eyes. Polnareff is failing to react to or follow the light on a basic level with his eyes that capture light, so he can only see that trail. Just to reiterate, this is important because Polnareff cannot connect a hit with the Emperor's bullets with his armor off, so even at his fastest, he cannot hit something that he can see and comments on numerous times as it comes towards him. So if Polnareff's eyes can see and follow Emperor, but his stand can't cut it, and his eyes cannot see or follow Hanged Man, that means the scene that he cuts Hanged Man cannot really be taken as a speed feat because Hanged Man is simply a lot faster than Emperor, and by extension that means Chariot cannot be that fast. This argument is where I stand, especially because of the prediction premise of the fight, the scaling to Emperor, and the fact that the light speed arguments requires kind of waving off Crazy Diamond's anti-feat against Rohan as an outlier, and so we arrive at either A, Emperor is faster than Hanged Man because of Chariot's cutting, or B, Emperor is slower than Hanged Man because of Polnareff's perception and reaction time to both of them, and everything else follows from here. Please understand, I'm hardly scratching the surface of these multi-layered arguments which have endless amounts of retorts awaiting for the other side of the argument, and I have more points for non-lightspeed stands in the video I'll link in the comments, I'll link in the description, but there are a plethora of points for lightspeed stands, and I would recommend checking out Jobber's speed scaling videos of Jojo. I'll link his channel in the description as well, and that'll give you a thorough rundown of the light speed arguments. So in conclusion, power scaling involves a lot of interpretation because the rules of fictional worlds are often blurred by the authors themselves writing in contradictory details. Power scaling is a way for us to resolve those details in our heads. It's also something people get really passionate about, and I mean really passionate, and because of that, it's a kind of a breeding ground for hate and toxicity. People get really mad over fictional stories, and honestly, the hating is a practice we should stop altogether. Why does it matter if Superman can beat Goku, or if Goku will one-shot Superman? Who cares? It really doesn't matter. It's just something we do for fun, so don't lose sight of that. Having dissenting opinions is healthy. Calling someone stupid for the opinion they hold, that's unhealthy, and that's the only thing here that's definitively wrong. So that being said, I still hold strong opinions. I still believe Death Battle is wrong about a number of their videos, but I enjoy Death Battle videos, and I don't hate the people there just because I disagree with their outcomes. I still think that stands are not lightspeed, save Hanged Man itself, of course, and I personally do not have any doubts on where I stand with that, but I can't blame you for holding the opposite opinion, because there's substantial merit to that argument. My videos hold my opinions, and so my big takeaway from this ordeal is to stop saying my interpretation of the story is definitive. Science, that's purely about fact. Fiction, though, is purely about interpretation. So I think that with my channel going forward, I'll put a little less focus on power scaling videos. They'll still pop up. I like doing them, especially the fun ones like Incredibles versus Madrigals, just less frequently because even though they're very high quality and have internal consistency, I don't like to argue. It's time consuming. I often go in the comments section and I argue only to clarify my opinion and whatnot, but it's just not something that I like spending my time with, and I feel like there are more productive things to be doing, and I don't appreciate getting caught up in beef or drama. I'm just out here minding my own business. Hey, if you want to talk to me over Discord, I'm gonna leave my Discord in the video description. Let's talk about life or even storytelling, but not if Joseph Joestar would beat Batman. Let's save that for another time, or maybe never. My current focus will be on theories and analysis of fiction. And on that note, thank you for listening to my rant. I don't want to sound annoying or anything, but the way that YouTube works is if you get over 1,000 subscribers, you can turn your channel into more than a hobby and start making money in it and start really putting in real time and passion. And that's a pretty nice thing. It's just how YouTube works. So I would really appreciate any subscriptions or likes. And even if you're just passing by, I encourage you to like or comment. Either way though, have a great week and take care of yourself.